Hey y'all, remember me? I'm Madison with Genuine Equine. I'm here today to have a little chat with y'all if you are interested in getting a horse. Do you want one? Do you have the right place for one? Do you want a horse at your house? Do you want to look into boarding a horse? I'd love to just chat with y'all and kind of tell you some things that you might need to look out for. You might need to Google search. You might need to ask these questions, know these things. All of that kind of stuff I'd love to talk to y'all about today. So if it's okay with you, I'd love to just go on a little ride and we can chat about that, okay? Since we're gonna go on a little ride, we gotta go get Jericho, okay? So come on, let's go. So, you might want a horse, huh? Let's talk real talk. But first, just so you know, some of these clips have been sped up for your enjoyment. But let's just say everything that's in here is real. If you have any questions or comments on anything I've used in this video, feel free to comment. Personally, my favorite way to watch a YouTube video is to speed it up by 1.5. So, go ahead and do that if you want, and tell me in the comments all the animals I saw on this ride. If you want a horse but don't have any experience at all, then maybe just taking lessons at a lesson barn is for you. You can Google closest ones in your area, or you can contact a local horse vet that might have some recommendations. Local Facebook horse pages are also very good connections for you. Just search some in your area. Do you have some experience but just don't have any room at your house for a horse or don't want to take on that responsibility? Then maybe boarding is your answer. That's what I do. Jericho is what's considered pasture boarded. That means he lives outside and the pasture owner takes care of the pasture and water and checks on them. And I come out every day and feed him and check on him. So I am what's considered a self-care boarder. And let me just say this, the most important people in your horse's lives and yours will be your vet, your farrier, and a trainer if you have one. Finding these people might save your horse's life one day. And sometimes your vet can help you find a farrier if you need help. Feel free to ask your trainer for that as well if you have one. When looking at places to board a horse, there's a bunch of different lingo that we use, and it's good to find a barn that has the same interests as you. Are you wanting to just trail ride? Are you jumping? Are you doing cross country? Are you showing? Is your horse just retired and you just want to have him as a pet? All of these things are gonna help you in your journey. Some more lingo is pasture boarding, stall boarding with turnout, just stall board, full care and self-care and training, but that's not really what this is about. I just wanted you to hear that that's an option if you do go searching for boarding places and hear that. Full care should not require you to come visit your horse daily, and they do everything. They should feed, clean stalls, turn out to a pasture or a paddock outside, and if needed, blanketing in the winter. They should be giving your horses round bales or hay outside. All of that is full care. Self-care means you turn your horse out yourself if you have a stall. You clean the stall and clean the water buckets, but some places are different. Some places will clean all the water, but you clean the stall. You always need to ask what's included with your board, like is grain included? Are shavings included? If not, then you need to buy those things as well. Some places have storage for those things and some don't. You always just have to ask, is your tack storage included? All of these things. If you have a stall, I like to ask if there's a time limit on turnout. Can I just bring my horse in once a day to feed him, or is there a limit on how much time they can be outside? Some places will have a limit so that they can do paddock management so that they don't destroy their paddocks and have good grass for a long time. So many summers, these horses need to go out on this grass and it needs to be saved and protected. Also ask about if hay is included. Think about outside ram bales or inside square bales, or if there's a few horses in the same pasture, do y'all all just divide the cost? Who goes to get it? Who sets it out? Who determines when it's time to put it out? All of these things, it's a lot to think about, huh? Now, the medical-ish side. Faculties are required to have a negative Coggins paper from the vet. This says that your horse does not have a disease called EIA. feel free to Google that, but it is a legal requirement, and many places have vaccination rules as well. So I always ask if they have a barn vet that comes and does the yearly vaccinations in Coggins, or is everybody on their own to make their own appointments and such. This leads me to the farrier. A farrier is someone who comes and trims and shoes your horse's feet. It can just be a trim, it can just be shoes, it can just be front shoes or back shoes. Any of those things, your farrier will take care of that. Always ask your barn or facility or property, whatever, if they have a farrier that comes out, or if you're responsible for finding your own. A lot of times places will just have one that comes every however many weeks. But always ask them if it's okay beforehand, if they can add 1 or 2 horses, however many you're bringing. I am pretty particular about my farrier, so I use a different one than everybody else at Jericho's Place, and that's totally fine. That's totally acceptable to just choose whoever you want, whether it's recommended from your vet or a trainer or just someone else on the property. If you're looking into boarding and need help, feel free to email me at the email on the screen. I forgot to mention a farrier should come at least every 4 to 6 weeks. Your farrier can tell you if they can go over that, but 6 weeks is your average time between trims. Now, for those who want horses at your house. Honestly, they're pretty expensive animal to feed. They need at least 1.5 to 2% of their body weight in forage, which is grass or hay. Wherever your horse is being held, they need at least 2 to 3 acres per horse. I like the 3 acres per horse if you think about your winter time, or in the summer if you have a drought or anything like that. It kind of gives you that extra cushion. But let's look at that acreage. Is it woods? Is it all grass with no trees for shelter? Is it all weeds, stuff that horses aren't going to eat? Is it really high grass? Is it on a hill or really, really slanted? All of these things are going to affect how you take care of them. What if there's a drought and all of your grass dies, like I said earlier, and you need to pay for hay in the summer because there's not enough grass for them to eat? You'll need to be prepared to mow it or bush hog it. Also think about paddock management, talking about dragging the field so the poop gets dispersed and dealing with any weeds that come up. Okay, let's think about hay now. Make sure it's horse hay, whether it's from a hay farmer or local farm store. Always check it for foxtails. They're like little needle weeds in the hay that can cause sores in their mouth. And always check for mold. Hay is very, very easy to become moldy, and horses can get sick off of that. Remember how much forage they needed? Yeah, that includes during the winter when there's absolutely no grass. If you're buying it in bulk, then do you really have storage for that much? Is this storage out of the sun and rain? Is it animal proof where no animals can get to it? Possums, raccoons, mice, snakes, all of these things can damage a good hay bale. Even with enough forage, some horses still need to be supplemented with calories, and that's for another day. Just think of it as another expense. Grain can become pretty expensive. Food done. Let's talk water. Do you have a natural creek or a safe to drink pond? Horses need up to 10 gallons of fresh water a day. Is there a water hose hookup and you'll need a water trough? That is something to check daily to make sure it's clean and nothing bad's in there. Sometimes small animals can fall in and pass away in there, and then horses won't drink from it. You will need to ask your vet if there's any special vaccinations they need in your area if they're drinking from a pond or a creek. Some people just don't think about that or just don't want that extra expense, but I say we are responsible for our horses to be able to live their best life, and part of that is vaccinating them from the things that we're allowing them to eat or drink from. I also forgot to mention that there is a vaccination that horses should get if they're eating from a round bale. You can ask your vet about that. Food and water done. Now for shelter. I personally love some good trees. They are the most natural, God-given protection from the weather. I've seen a bunch of different types of open-faced shelters or even open stalls in a pasture or a paddock, but I still see a lot of rain rot and fungus with horses that only have that shelter. Not saying it can't happen with tree protection, and it's great to give horses the option of a shelter. Can your shelter be okay if there's 3 inches of snow and ice? Or maybe you have a barn they can go in. Whatever it is, make sure it will provide good protection all year long from the rain, sun, snow, and mud. Mud in Tennessee is a different breed. It rains here a lot, and wherever horses are congregating will create a lot of mud around your water source, in your sheds or barns, and underneath of those trees. So being able to foresee that issue is going to save a lot of hardship in the future. Think about if your shelter or barn is going to need electricity or lights or fans. Here in the winter, it gets dark very early, and you'll need to see them if you're feeding them and checking their water and hay source. Lastly, let's talk about fencing. Personally, the most important feature in a good fence is visibility. If you have barbed wire or electric fencing, then please tag them with orange or pink tape so the horses and deer can see them. Deer here in Tennessee will rip a fence down if they can't see it or jump over it. And when horses are in their flight mode, for whatever reason they can't see it either, they just want to save themselves and not thinking about the tiny wires that can actually become life-threatening if they run into it. If you have other animals that you're putting together, then think about a fencing that's okay with all of them. Goats, sheep, dogs, pigs, cows, there's fencing that's great for all of them. Now, as an added bonus, I'd like to talk about some storage options. We already talked about the hay storage, so now let's talk about grain and tack storage. Mice will be your biggest opponent with your grain. Wherever you're storing it, make sure they can't get into it. Putting grain in trash bins are a great way to protect from rodents. Also, if you have chickens, they will eat whatever you drop and get into bags, or if you leave the top open on a trash can. Wherever you're storing your tack, make sure mice can't get into that either, or they'll eat the fleece underneath the saddle and the saddle blanket and any wraps you have stored away. I've also seen snakes bed down under excess hay or under the pallets of your hay also. But if they're eating your mice, then they can stay, but not good if you have chickens. If you go ahead and look on your screen, you'll see some yearly expenses of horses that I've talked about in this video. And something I haven't mentioned is their yearly dental work, but I'm going to do a whole separate video for that, so stay tuned. And as always, thanks for watching, folks. If you like this video, please press the like button and subscribe. God bless y'all.